Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Swire. You can also call me the Promo Guy. My guest today is Chris M. Kane from Status Flow. Chris is an executive coach and a public speaker. We're going to talk about his strategy, the flow, and how to get into the zone today. Instead of reading off Chris' bio like I do before, I want to do something special today. In one of the notes that Chris wrote me for the show, he said, and I'm putting it in front of my desk right now, one of the said is, challenge what you think is possible. Take full responsibility for your circumstances. Make a real commitment. And that's is my motto for 2021. With that, welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you so much. Grateful to be here. I'm very impressed. Wow, I'm just a few days into the new year and I've already got something on somebody's desk. That's outstanding.
Yeah, I think if I can do all of what you wrote on that, I could basically accomplish anything that I want to take on this year.
You know, you really can. And I love that you brought that up. The first point, challenge what you think is possible. It's absolutely true because things are only impossible until they aren't anymore. And a lot of it has to do with what we believe is possible. There's something called the Roger Bannister principle. Roger Bannister was the first man to ever run a mile in under 4 minutes. And people were trying to do this for decades. And when he finally did it in 1954, his record only lasted for 46 days because all of a sudden it became possible in everybody's mind. And as soon as something becomes possible up here, we see it manifest out there.
Mm-hmm. And then I like, you have to take responsibility for your circumstances, meaning that the world that we live in right now, if you take on a challenge, you don't just back away and blame, complain, and say, oh, it didn't work for me. You got to take full responsibility and you have to be commit into it. That's how you become successful. And that's how you, move on to the next challenge.
Yeah, without full responsibility, nothing is really going to happen. You're going to get stuck in blame and all of that kind of stuff. Whose fault is it? And when you look at the truly great performers in this world, throughout history and today, if you look at the Blue Angels or the Thunderbirds, if you look at Shelby America when, Ford v. Ferrari, when they wanted to beat Ferrari at Le Mans, it was all about what do we need to do to make it happen? It wasn't about what somebody did wrong or what didn't work correctly. It was great. What do we need to do to make it happen? And we can only do that by accepting full responsibility for everything, including what we think and feel.
I love that. So, Chris, I wanted to ask you something that you do as essential on your company, Status Flow. Can you tell us what is the flow and how do we get into it?
Yeah, thanks. Flow is something that it's a very simple name, but you've heard it under other names. Athletes call it being in the zone, or you've heard the term runner's high. Essentially, it is a optimum state of consciousness, and you feel your best, you perform your best, and you're never stressed out or overwhelmed. Now, this is all driven by your own natural neurochemistry. So if you can set the conditions in your business, in your life to create that kind of neurochemical dump, then you can create flow states. And when you do this, you are infinitely more creative, more innovative. You're, like I said, you're never overwhelmed or stressed out, and you're at least 5 times quicker than you would normally be.
Can everyone do it, or how would one, get into such flow for the performance?
Yeah, it really is available to anybody with, to my understanding, a biologically normal brain, or at least close enough, right? And so there are what we call flow triggers or flow switches. So some of them are going to be autonomy. Right? People need to feel like they can steer their own car and do it really well. There needs to be complexity. There needs to be novelty. We need things new to be happening. So there are 22 of these triggers. And so the more of them that you can harness and implement into your life, and the tricky part is addressing your own behaviors to make that happen, you can produce these flow states. And that's the tricky part. It's behavior modification, because a lot of this work is very counterintuitive. An example of what I'm talking about, if you want to be more effective, if you want to get more done every week, instead of working more hours, you work less hours. So I know that sounds counterintuitive, right? But working more hours so you can get more stuff done is the same thing as using your credit card so you can afford to buy more stuff. That's the losing proposition. That's the hamster wheel that so many people get on. So if you really want to be 3 to 5 times more effective, you work less hours, because then you're only spending time on the things that matter, the things that make the impact on what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I love that. My motto and our motto is do more with less. So
yeah, I
the
say
less
if
you
you're
do, like the less overwhelmed you are with work, the better that you perform. And recently, give you an example. My son is running a server on Discord. He's overwhelmed. There's so many things going on. He wants to do well, but then I tell him, you're working yourself too much. Think about what you don't need to do right now, what you can delegate to other people to do. Then you don't do it. Focus on what you really enjoy to do most and do it. And then you do it well, than to do everything all at the same time and you overwhelm yourself.
Yeah, that really is a big part of this work is what you mentioned. It's about managing your resources, managing your energy, right? Do the things that you do well and do the things that make the impact, right? Like bookkeeping or payroll, this is not something that I should be doing in my own organization. Get other people that are really good at that to do that stuff, because they're going to do it faster and they're going to enjoy doing it, where I'm going to do it really slow and I'm going to hate doing it. So, what we say is if you're moving too slow, you're probably trying to do too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the most successful people has the best help. They will hire help even a lot better than they do in that particular industry. So like no good lawyer will represent themselves in court. They have another lawyer to do that. Like they all have a financial planner for wealthy people. The reason why, they hire out the best expert that can look out for them. So with that, I wanted to see if I could get more example from you for being more effective, efficient, and more productive.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways that you can look at what I'll say being effective, what I like to call leverage, because you can be very efficient and at the end of the week get nothing done. And you can be very productive and not do the things that really matter. So we look through the lens of leverage, an input to output ratio. How do I get as much as I can with as little as possible? So, if I have 7 meetings that happen every single week, that's 7 hours out of my week just spent sitting in meetings. So I'm going to look at that and say, how can I cut this down to 3 meetings and get all of the same amount of stuff done in those meetings? Because if I can save myself 3 hours a week by cutting out meetings, I'm a huge winner. So it really is, how do we leverage everything to move the needle? And that's one of the things, is so much of what we do does not make the impact. So I would, one of the tools is, what can I do right now that makes the biggest impact on what I'm trying to do this week? Whatever my goals are, whatever I'm trying to accomplish this week, what's the one thing, and there's always one thing, the one thing that is going to make the deepest impact on that? Do that first.
100% agree. I have a friend who's a copywriter, and her name is Julie. She's famous for monotasking. I think that she made up that term. She's a copywriter. Instead of multitasking, we're doing a lot of things. She's focused on one thing. When she's on assignment, she turn off everything. No cell phone, no nothing. Just focus on that particular task, and she do it well and get done and move on to something else. So I think what you said, I can relate to, her monotasking skills out there.
Yeah, but multitasking is a lie. Biologists will tell you that humans don't multitask. They task shift. They go from one thing to another, and when it seems like we're doing 2 things at the same time, there's one thing that's happening in the foreground of our awareness and our attention, and one thing that's happening in the background. So if you look at, walking and talking, you're not thinking about putting one foot in front of the other. You're thinking about the conversation and the talking. If you're driving and texting, well, guess what? You're thinking about the texting and not really having the driving in your awareness. And that's why people run into things. So it really is, the multitasking thing is a lie. If you think you're a good multitasker, you're not. You're just task shifting, and you're hemorrhaging valuable energy resources. And this is why you're burning out at the end of the week.
Yeah. Yeah. wanted to ask you, from what you are and from your notes that you sent me, you said there are opportunities right now in the marketplace. So can you point out a couple of examples where they are? And there are group of us that are really optimistic. We think that things going to get better soon. But then there are also a big group of people that say, things are going to get really worse before they get better. So which camp are you? And then what kind of opportunities do you see?
I would say that it doesn't matter and I don't care. Because here's the deal, right? You don't have to like something in order to make it work for you. You do have to take responsibility for how you're thinking about it, how you're relating to whatever the issue is. What we say is how you relate to the issue is the issue. And so if you're sitting here going, things are going to get worse, it's going to be terrible, and everything's going to be awful, you're driving your neurochemistry in a very specific way. Your brain is firing in a very specific way. And if you say, hey, things are going to get better, this is a lot of opportunity here, same thing's going to happen. Different neurochemistry is going to happen. Your brain's going to fire in a different way. Now, this is important because basic neuroscience here, feelings drive actions. Feelings drive actions. Actions produce results. So if you're feeling doom and gloom and upset and this sucks, you're going to be in a certain framework that takes certain actions. Whereas if you're in, hey, there's a lot of opportunity here, I'm excited about the future and what I might be able to do, and moving that I don't know to I wonder how, and moving that I can't to I could, shifting all of this changes your neurochemistry. It changes even your neurophysiology, and you're going to take different actions that is going to take that's going to produce different results. So full responsibility for what you think, what you feel, and align yourself with what is best for the outcome that you want.
Mm-hmm. And also read that, I talked to an expert, who was previously on the show. Actually, the number of people who start a business has actually skyrocketed, and people who incorporate new businesses has also increased because they might unfortunately get laid off, but now they are taking on the side hustle or something that they really want to do for a long time. Now becomes a main business.
Yeah, I was actually in a fairly good sized meeting. There were about 40 people in the room, and this was several months ago, probably around maybe June 2020. And somebody said, "Man, 30 million people are unemployed because of COVID-19," and I'm like, "That's fantastic!" And everybody looked at me like I was crazy, right? And I said, "Look, there are 87%, according to Gallup, 87% of the workforce is either unengaged or actively disengaged at work. They hate their jobs. So when we hit 30 million people unemployed, it was like, okay, for 4 million people, that's pretty bad. But for 26 million people, they just got liberated from a job that they hated. And now they can go off and pursue their wildest dreams and the things that they've always wanted to do and told themselves that they couldn't because I have to work, I'm trapped, and all this kind of stuff. And you're absolutely right. The uptick that we saw in July, August about corporate formation, IP applications, trademark applications skyrocketed. So people are doing it. They are saying, you know what? I'm not going to go back to that terrible job that I hated. I'm going to go after the thing that I've always been wanting to do. And we're going to see massive amounts of innovation and creativity and opening up new markets over the next 3 years for sure.
I think it's the market itself also are more welcoming for new business, because before, when you try to run a good sized business, try to impress people, you need a nice office, you need certain type of furniture, so a lot of expense, right? But right now you can impress people by just cleaning up your room, make sure that your rectangle is presentable, maybe you have a lot of clothes like in behind. As long as they don't see it in the screen, you're good. Then you can run a you can impress a lot of people by just having, your point, your commitment, and then, a little bit books that helps.
Yeah, you can do so much now, with the technology that's available, and the technology that's coming is going to be nothing short of impressive. And so the opportunities are abound over the next 3 years in particular, and further out for the rest of the decade, really.
Okay. I wanted to switch gear a little bit and ask you, what are some of the benefits for working with a coach like yourself? So are we needing the guidance more, or can a coach be pointing out something that we never thought of themselves. What are your thoughts for benefits for working with a coach?
Well, working with a coach is no longer an option. This is something that is really necessary. If you don't have a coach, you need to find one, and it's tough because there's a lot of different kinds of coaches out there. So you need to understand what kind of coach do I need and what really works for me, and so it is kind of still the Wild West in terms of the coaching industry. But there's a math principle out there called the law of accelerating returns. And what that shows is that 1920 is to 2020 as 2020 is to 2030. So we're going to see 100 years of technological evolution in the next 10. And at that rate of speed, we need to move as fast as we possibly can to be as creative as we possibly can. And you need that unbiased feedback from an outside source to kind of show you what's going on. A coach is a mirror for you so that you can see how you're relating to the world and so that you can consciously align yourself with the outcomes that you're looking for. So the hallmark of a good coach is that they will not tell you anything about what you should do. They will not give you advice. Consultants have advice. Coaches have questions, right? So it's a very different kind of thing. But a coach will hold up the mirror to you and say, what I'm hearing you say is this, is that right? So you can hear what's really going on underneath the surface so that you can align yourself. It's kind of like working on the car you're driving, right? You need a mechanic. So stop, hold on, let's get under the hood and look at this. That's what a good coach is going to do for you.
Like you said, there are a lot of coaches out there and different styles and personalities. So for the listener who might be thinking about looking for a coach, what question do they need to ask themselves before reaching out to a coach? Should they be looking for a particular style that works for them or a certain type of expertise? And what would you suggest they ask themselves?
Yeah, that's a really tough question because it's going to be different for pretty much anyone that hears the answer, right? So I would say, first, make sure you know the difference between a coach and a consultant, because some people, they need consultants more than they do coaching right now. Other people need coaches and not consultants. So understand the difference. And like I said, consultants have answers, coaches have questions. And then I don't know that it's important to find a coach that has done what you're trying to do, because their answers may not be your answers, right? So again, this is the question answer thing. Energy is important. I would say that's probably the first thing to look at, is notice what you feel about the energy between you and the coach that you're vetting. Make sure that your coach has a coach, because the best coaches have coaches. And I would caution somebody from discounting a coach that either isn't certified or is quote unquote too young. I see a lot of young coaches coming out and they're really good. And, some people will say, well, they don't have enough experience. I said, no, coaches need, consultants need experience. Coaches don't necessarily need experience, because the younger ones grew up in a different world of possibility. Right. So when I was a kid, Evel Knievel was the coolest thing on two wheels. But now you've got like Travis Pastrana and the X Games. And so they grew up in a different world of what was possible, which means they have a different mindset and they're open to ideas that maybe somebody that is more seasoned does not have that same kind of framework. So yeah, I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start. First of all, you want to make sure that the style the coaches fits, what you have. That's the most important. You can't work with someone that you couldn't connect with. That's I like what you said about younger coaches too. Maybe they are in a particular experience that you're dying to have. Look at how many young people out there doing startups and doing things that we never thought of before. And my son, for example, with all the things that he's doing at Discord, we never thought that it's possible. Like you said, like 5-10 years ago.
Yeah, I'll talk to an accountant or an attorney or somebody, or a CEO at a fairly decent sized organization, and the idea that you can make a couple of $1 million as a YouTuber, they have no idea how that's possible, how that works, or even what that means, and so they're like, it's a world that they did not come from, and that a lot of times they don't understand. So make sure that you are finding that coach with the right energy and the right kind of attitude, and talk to some of their clients. If they'll let you, if there's that's a great way to get the client's experience of working with that coach.
That's good. So I know that you liked where first working week in 2021. So I wanted to ask for advice on how to achieve our goals in 2021. Should we aim lower so we can achieve all that, or should we what should we do for finding our goals and achieving them?
Well, I won't go too far down the road of metaphysics here, but it does start with that challenge what you believe kind of thing. And I would say I would rather fail at a goal that's really lofty than achieve a goal that's maybe sandbagging it a little bit or holding back. So I say go for whatever you want. Let go of what you think is possible, right? Because there's sort of a weird thing. The human ancestral brain doesn't really process time very well, when we start talking like quantum mechanics or something, because the brain only thinks of time is in a linear fashion, before, during, and after. But if you take a task, for example, let's say you want to write a book. If you tell yourself, wow, it's going to take me 3 years to write a book, it's going to take you 3 years. If you tell yourself it's going to take me 3 months to write a book, it's going to take you 3 months. It just depends on what you really hold in your consciousness as a fact, as truth, as what you really believe, because a task or a goal will expand or contract based on the time that you allot for it. So challenge what you think is possible. Go for what you really want more than what you think is possible. You'll get a lot farther.
Okay. So it's just do what you think about doing. I think going back, I'm going to repeat, what you've said. It's, you got to make a real commitment, take on some challenge, take responsibility, and then any goal can be achieved if you really put, one task and don't focus on other things that might not be important while you're doing the task that you're trying to do.
Yeah, and it will require some sacrifices. I mean, I've achieved the impossible at least 3 times in my life, where I really said, I'm going to bend the universe and make the impossible a reality. I decided I wanted to trade in a 6-figure career in the tech industry to become a radio DJ, which, I got started, I was being paid $12 an hour part-time. When I started this organization, I was basically broke, homeless, and living out of my trunk, so, of all the crazy things you could bet on, the safest one is probably you.
Yeah. And then people invest in yourself,
Yeah, look at Elon Musk. Elon Musk did all kinds of crazy things. He says, oh, I'm going to invest all this money in this, that, and the other, and I'm just not going to pay rent. I'm going to be broke and living on my buddy's couch, So it really is about, what are you willing to do to make it happen? Are you willing to make the sacrifices out in the physical world as well as in your inner world? Like, if you're going to achieve a goal, something that you really want, there are certain things that you cannot afford. You cannot afford a mindset that says, I'm not good enough. You cannot afford the luxury of, I don't deserve it, or I can't. These are luxuries that you cannot afford when you're going after something that's important to you. That stuff needs to be sacrificed.
Yeah, speaking of Elon, like he does things really differently for most people. Like it's just so overwhelmed to see, how I don't think he really cares. Like, he's like the 2nd richest person in the world right now, because he probably don't look at it. And then I read that he sold all his properties, and he doesn't want physical possession. So he probably focus more on the tasks he's working on, and what he's able to do is so different. There's a car company, he does a drilling company, a flame torch, and he sent people into space now. So I think what you said, again, going back to the challenge that you think is possible, and take responsibility and then make commitment, that's how really gets things done. And sorry, I keep repeating it, but I just think it just, looking at it, then it makes you want to do things that you think is not possible before.
Yeah, and I think once you've done that, you've challenged what you think is possible, you've taken full responsibility, and you've made the commitment, it's time to take action. You know, there's the lawyer, you know, any lawyer will tell you that time kills deals, and I will tell you that success loves speed. You know, we mentioned Elon Musk, and it's like he doesn't think too long about stuff from what I can tell. He has an idea, thinks it through, goes, yep, that's a good idea. And then he just starts doing it. You know, he said he's sitting in traffic one day and he decided, man, there should really be a tunnel from the valley into LA. So what did he do? He just started digging a hole, you know, he just got moving. So get out of your own way. And again, I don't think there was one thought in there that occurred to him that said, oh, I can't do that. Oh, it's too expensive. Oh, it's going to take too much time. Oh, that's not possible. Oh, there's going to be so many permits. Like all of that stuff was gone. Dude just started digging a hole, right?
Yeah, right smack in LA.
Yeah. So get in motion and stay in motion every single day. That's going to make the difference.
Love that. Hi, Chris. So wanted to ask you, and I know that you have something exciting coming for your company. And also, can you tell the viewer if they want to reach out to you, what would be the best way?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a lot going on. We have a new website that's about to launch. I wrote a book, so that's coming out by the end of the month called Renegotiate Your Existence, which you can do. You can renegotiate your entire existence. And you can get us at statusflow.net. I'm actually encouraging everybody to go to the terrible website because the last idiot that built the website was me. So I'm very excited to have professional website builders building it. So I'm very excited for the new one, statusflow.net. And you can get us on Instagram as well at the Status Flow.
Okay, I'll put all the notes down there. And then, Chris, thank you so much. And hopefully you don't mind me to take that quote for this year. And then thank you so much for coming on to the show today.
Absolutely. You're welcome. And thank you. Grateful to be here.
Bye.